friends, Lizardlea here for day 21 of Four Heavenly Beasts, the Heaven and Earth design. I am gonna finish page 3 today. There's just no doubt about it. There's barely anything left on page 3. I really wish I had finished it the other day, but it's okay. We'll finish it today and then start on page 4. I'm so excited. Alrighty, so we are back, and David has some things he would like to say about Cube.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I couldn't find the site. So, like, as I told you, I first watched Hypercube back in high school because it was on TV. And so I was like, wow, that was cool. I wonder what it's based off of. And they were talking about how it's a sequel and blah, 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 blah. So I was curious if there was a book, and I started looking into, like, origins and whatnot. And I found a really cool website that I guess was a smaller fan website. I thought it was bigger than it was or something. I don't know. I can't find it. But it seemed to have a bunch of theories on how this was connected to that and blah, 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 blah. And short version, I don't know at this point if that was actually correct or if it was just going off of Cube Zero, which was coming out at that time, which I did not know. So, yes, dear, you're right always. I'm sorry. I love you.
I love this movie. That's why I was just like, no. The only person that was associated with creating part of the cube, and I don't remember his name, Worth, because he designed the outer shell. And that was it. Holloway, the doctor, made a bunch of conspiracy theories. She was the one that was like, oh, you do this, and a guy over here does that, and that's what leads to this. She was the government conspiracy theorist.
Right, and so the thing that I saw had a pretty good breakdown of, like, how supposedly they'd left hints that implied that was correct, but again, now I don't know if that's just because Cube Zero had come out, and that's, as we'll get to, basically the point of Cube Zero is them, like, stating that directly, in a much, much dumber way. So, yeah, I don't know. Do you want to give the breakdown on Hypercube?
Was that the next one, or was...
Well, yeah, it was the next one.
Okay, yeah, so Cube came out in 97, Hypercube came out in 2002, and then Cube Zero came out in 2004.
Yeah.
Okay, so Hypercube is the next one we're talking about.
Yeah.
I wasn't really a fan of this movie. This one plays a lot with time. So it's very similar to Cube, where there are people in a cube, and, you go in between one room to another one, and it's just another identical cube. Except in this one, they're all the same color. They're different colors in Cube.
Yeah.
Because Kazan wants to go back to the blue room, and I identify with that on a spiritual level. But yeah, so these people are in there, and there's one girl that is blind. I remember that. There's another girl that's... What is she? Is she the blonde one? It's like, you guys, I was not a fan, alright? So, like, even pulling this up, I bet I won't even be able to tell you, like, yes, this character is this character.
It doesn't really matter.
Yeah. But they attempt to go through the rooms, they're trying to get away. And, I mean, God, what was the favorite scene that my mom and I actually liked in this movie is they're all in a room, and then it's when the wall... It looks like just a wall of electricity starts slowly making its way towards them. And the guy that ends up sleeping with the girl in the red dress is like, oh, the wall, it moved, or something. Like, it was just hilarious. That's...
Yeah.
My mom and I loved that. It was the one good thing. But, yeah, so eventually they do get split up. Like, someone will go into the next room, the door will close behind them, someone will immediately open it, and the person won't be there. So you're just like, what? So then it starts becoming this kind of time loop, just time craziness. There's one guy who goes through and he starts collecting another guy's watch. And he ends up having a ton of watches on his arms. Turns out he's eating the guy. Specifically because, he wants to survive. And the other guy doesn't know, like he doesn't know that this guy has interacted with him 100 times already. And, so that guy goes crazy. The guy that sleeps with the girl in the red dress, they go off into their own realm, and you see them kind of like spinning in the middle of the room, like there's no gravity, and then it spins some more, and then there's skeletons. And that was weird. I mean, can I go to spoiler territory with the ending?
I mean, I can... Yeah, go ahead, and then I'll fill in some detail, I think.
The blind girl, I believe, turns out to be like some kind of developer or something. Like, she's incredibly intelligent, and she has a chip, and the blonde woman gets it from her or something. She makes it out of the hypercube. So she wakes up in this, like, pond kind of thing in a room. Like, I said pond, but it's not a pond. It's just a... It's not quite a pool, but I guess that's actually better than pond. She wakes up, and she's like, yeah, I got the thing. I think it was her necklace or something. And they're like, all right, awesome. And they're government or military or something. And that's how it ends, is you learn... it was a government conspiracy in order to get this chip or something or whatever from the blind girl. So, yeah.
Yeah.
It was weird.
Well, so, like... Okay, so again, I watched this one first, and I was like, this is kind of interesting. It started okay. The first problem with Cube 2 is it's literally Cube from a plot perspective. The neat thing that Cube did was the person who betrays the group and starts becoming the Axe Maniac is not the person you would expect it to be. The exact same character in Cube 2 does the exact same thing. The one that's supposed to be the good guy, blah, 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 blah.
Oh, yeah, the detective is the one who ends up eating the other guy.
And he starts out good, and he's, like, helping them, and blah, 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 and he goes nuts. He actually arguably has a heck of a lot more reason to go nuts in Hypercube, I'd say. But it's the exact same thing. Now, I saw Hypercube first, so I was like, oh, that's kind of clever, but that was about it. The only other clever things were, it does have some cool... Well, okay, it has some terrible special effects, but they're cool ideas, even if executed poorly. They weren't even necessarily very good at the time. However, the whole idea is that a hypercube is a cube in 5 dimensions. It's an actual mathematical or geometrical term. I'm not sure.
It's called a tesseract at some points in the movie.
Yeah. So, the next dimension is time, or is it 4 dimensions? Whatever, it doesn't matter. Point is... yes, unlike the other cube where, you're just moving between physical rooms, now you're not just moving between rooms, you're moving between times, which is why you get all these weird things. The one kind of cool scene to me is the detective starts going crazy because he opens a door and he sees himself and he's screaming, hey, don't trust this other guy, and then he gets killed. His head gets knocked off by how these weird time movie things do. Which is kind of a neat hook. That's a good reason for him to go nuts, and it's like, oh, why can't we trust that guy? Well, you don't find out, because in their timeline, you don't find out. He just dies, or he lives, or I don't remember. It doesn't matter. Point is, you don't find out. But that's what starts rattling him, and I don't think anyone else sees that, and I thought that was a really cool way to do it. And then, yes, later on, he eventually snaps and kills the one guy, and I think already is at the point where he's eaten him, and he's wandering alone through the cube, and he opens a door, and he sees the exact same guy. And he's like, okay! Just completely... I thought that was really cool.
That was very memorable for me, because it's if you're going to be stuck in this place, and you have literally nothing to eat... and you come across a stranger and you don't give a crap and you just want to survive, I could see someone doing that.
Heck, they're practically good friends at this point. I mean, heck, did I kill him? Here he is.
He's not dead.
Yeah, no, so...
I have 50 of his watches, but here he is.
Yeah, so... The rest of the movie is not very good, especially if you've already seen Cube, because it's Cube with less interesting ideas, with more hokey special effects, with none of the execution for the most part. Like I said, that one thing is kind of what I thought was cool, and the rest of it is, it's a neat death trap in the sense that they're messing around with the CG budget instead of just practical effects, and they're kind of cool looking. It'd be interesting to see what they could do with a real budget, like the cube bouncing scene that chops the guy and a couple of the others. But then once again, you wind up with crazy guy chasing them through the cube, one person's going to escape, and the traps start repeating. You keep getting that same... I think Isn't the cube collapsing? Isn't that the
Yes,
idea? Yeah.
the Tesseract is indeed collapsing.
Yeah.
Also, I just remembered, and I had to Google it to double check myself. His line is, "It's the wall. It wiggled." It was a great line. Like, it was completely different tone from the entire rest of the movie, but it was great. But yeah, okay. So I attempted to read a quick synopsis. Kate is the blonde that eventually makes it out of the cube. Or what was her name? Sasha is the blind girl. She is a professional computer hacker. She designed the Tesseract, and the government wanted to put people into it, and she was like, "What? No, you can't do that. That's not okay." And when they tried to go after her, she fled into the only thing that she knew they wouldn't follow with, and that was the Tesseract. So the government sends in Kate to go and get the necklace, which has all the information on it. That where is it? Like it has the coding and everything for the Hypercube and stuff. Filled with confidential information on Izon. Oh, it's she hacked the company that hired her to make the Tesseract or whatever. And so they send Kate in to go and get it back.
Copy-paste original plot, yeah.
Well,
mostly.
No. That part, no.
No, but I mean, it's still someone's connected, the characters are almost identical stand-ins. You have the person who has some sort of disability, it's a physical one this time, who also happens to be a savant. You have the person who... And survives, yes?
No, she dies in the Tesseract.
The blind one?
Everybody dies except for the psychotherapist that makes it out, the blonde.
Oh, that's right.
Everybody else dies in that cube when it implodes on itself.
Right.
Which is at 6:06:59, by the way.
I think that's supposed to be important. I forgot.
It was, yeah. That's the time that everybody dies, and it's the number that the watch is always at, and the number that's written, like... I think he writes it all over the walls or over himself or something.
But I think mathematically it's supposed to also somehow be cutesy. But yeah,
I don't remember that.
It has none of the elegance of Cube, and Cube is not an elegant movie to begin with. So, it's I don't know, if you like the first Cube, it's worth watching. If you're just like, well, I'll put it on.
I've watched it 2 or 3 times. It's my sister's favorite in the series. My mom and I are just like, yeah, no, she's wrong. Cube is the best.
Yeah, Cube is a much better movie.
Hypercube does end with Phase 2 is terminated. So, you're supposed to think that, Cube was Phase 1, this is Phase 2. Maybe they're setting up for a Phase 3, and yeah, that hasn't happened because Hypercube sucked.
Well, and then, I don't know what they do, The interesting things to me about the Cube movie, which all of them back out of, is the idea of, again, a completely unemotional killer. You are in a death trap, literally. You don't know why, you don't know how, you need to deal with it. Understanding the rules of the death trap is the most interesting part to me, and they often make them too simple in the sense that, well, yes, it's this incredibly complicated mathematical equation, but for the purposes of the plot, we're going to solve it in 35 minutes, or maybe an hour, or whatever. I would be much more interested if it was a larger group of people and the whole thing was just them trying to escape the entire time, no running from each other junk, and then at the end, maybe one makes it out, and you get to see more of oh wait, they didn't think of this, they didn't think of that, oh god, what's this, how do we deal with that, and the situation keeps changing, but at the end of the day, it's just an extreme take on man versus nature. You're never fighting another person, you're not dealing with emotional betrayals, well, maybe because there's a trap that forces you to, but there's no crazy person trying to kill you scenario. Because that's something we see all the time in horror movies. It's the go-to is crazy person or monster trying to kill you. And the idea that just no, you are in the world's most hostile environment because it was designed to be hostile, but in theory you can survive, is kind of interesting. And it's theoretically kind of interesting in Saw, although we can talk about those later. I guess we've just pivoted into the horror genre.
Saw.
What?
I love Saw.
Saw 1 is good. It's actually very good, but we'll get to that.
I was going to say, I lied earlier when I said that Kate survived. She survives the Hypercube, but as soon as she gets out and they get the necklace, they shoot her in the head.
Right,
yeah.
Okay,
So nobody survives.
Right.
She makes it, she's the only one to make it out of the cube,
Right.
But they still kill her.
Yeah.
So.
And I was like, wow, that happened. What was that? And the thing that's a little bit annoying about Cube and Hypercube, but there's only one thing more annoying, and we'll get to that, is that they set up mysteries that they don't intend to answer. So, okay.
See, I don't know. I kind of like that Cube didn't give you the answers.
Well,
Because it's like, Kazan walks out into the light, and you're just like, is this an experiment? Is he going to get thrown back in there? Did he survive, and they're going to let him go free? You don't know, and I found that to be interesting.
I am okay with it. I think it's weaker than... I wish there had been a little bit more. I don't need answers to everything. And I do think if you're going to do it and you don't have good answers, better to leave it a mystery. But I do find that mysteries for the sake of mysteries feel kind of like a cheap writing technique, where it's like, well, this will keep them interested. All right, what's the payoff? We're not giving them one. I don't know how to write myself out of this. Screw that. But also, to be fair with Cube, it's not like it's Lost, or that's the whole freaking point, or Game of Thrones, or whatever. It's a self-contained horror movie. It's not about the mystery for 90%.
Yeah, exactly.
And they
That's
don't make it about the mystery. They
Yeah.
pretty much hand-wave it really early. So, that it's still fine. I was a little let down because, especially in high school, I was like, oh, this is cool. I wonder if there's really neat detailed backstory to all this. Oh no, it's just a horror movie. Someone made this on a budget of shoestring and bubblegum. Cool, good for them. So, Hypercube, by extension, doubles down on the mystery and the weirdness, and it's also not really going anywhere with it. That brings me, if you're okay with it, to Cube Zero.
I'm okay with it. Would you like to head
No,
this
you
one?
should definitely explain Cube Zero.
Okay, so Cube Zero is incredibly different from the other two. It attempts to give you a backstory on the people who are in control of the cube. So you meet these two guys. One of them is spectacular at chess. He can look at a board and tell you in how many moves it'll take for you guys for him to beat you.
In a glance.
In a glance. He immediate. It's crazy. And you find out very quickly that they're in control of the cube to some extent. Are you okay?
Yeah, I dropped a soda.
Oh, I see. So that isn't spoilers, but I'm gonna start getting into them. So they are watching the people in the cube. That's all they're supposed to do. They're just supposed to watch them.
Don't they trigger traps too?
Well, yes.
Oh,
I was gonna get into that.
Sorry, okay.
Sometimes they'll get a call from the head department that'll be like, oh, hey, this person is close to the edge. You need to do this. Or, hey, this person's doing this. And, so they'll tweak it. But it's only supposed to be with, corporate level people telling them, hey. And so at one point, they have to go because someone has made it to the end, the edge of the cube. They've made it out. And the chess guy, I don't remember their names, sorry. He hasn't done this before. The person that used to do this with the other guy has disappeared. And they don't know why. Chess guy keeps asking, and he's like, hey, do you know if he's okay? Is he coming back? And the other guy is, really shifty about it.
He's kind of the superior.
Yeah. He's been there significantly longer. And so he's like, hey, somebody's made it to the end. You have to come help me. I can't do this on my own. And the chess guy is like, what? No, I'm not qualified for this. I don't have this approval. And the other dude's like, yeah, no, you're going to have to join me. It doesn't matter. I have to have another person with me. So they go, and they look on the screen at the person who's made it to the end. And, turns out it's their old coworker. And a contraption comes up from the floor, and it wraps around his neck, and it just holds him in place. And so, he's, of course, what's going on? What the heck? I mean, he's covered in bandages. Dude has made it through some traps, all right? And so the guy, the superior, opens up a book, and he asks them some questions, and the last question he asks is, do you believe in God? And the guy's like, are you, is this a joke? What are you talking about? Do you believe in God? He's like, well, how can I? I just went through all of this. No, there's no way. And so there are two buttons in front of them. One says yes, one says no. And the superior's like, you have to hit no. And chess guy's like, what? And he hits no, and it burns the guy alive. You never find out what would happen if he said yes. And the guy even says, chess guy is like, what happens if they say yes? And then the superior's like, I don't know, no one's ever said yes before. So they go back, and chess guy notices a very, very pretty lady in the cube. And he looks into her, and he goes through her files, and he's just like, hey, all these other people have signed a waiver to approve them. They have given permission to be put into this cube and go through these tests rather than, go to prison or go through... Actually, I think it's specifically the death penalty. Well, maybe it's just
They're supposed to... Yeah.
Yeah, it's supposed to be people who did really horrible things. And he's like, there's no signature. And the superior's just like, dude, this isn't your job. Leave it alone. But chess guy just keeps harping on it. And it gets to the point where he's like, she keeps talking about her daughter. Like, she's innocent. She didn't sign this. And he looks into her, he basically Googles her. And he sees that, she didn't do the things that they're trying to claim in her file. Like, she was, like, protesting something or whatever, but that was the worst.
She was protesting the company, so they're getting rid of dissidents sort of thing.
Yeah, see, I'm good at this. I have good recall about movies I kind of like. Love you. So, he ends up taking the elevator down, and he puts himself into the cube. And he's like, I have this memorized. Like, I know the code. Sorry, I never mentioned this. Cube had numbers in between the rooms. This cube has letters in between the rooms. So it turns out it's a to Z, so it's 26 by 26?
Yeah.
I think that's what it is. And so he's like, if you can tell me the coordinates of the room, AAZ, I can get us out of here. And of course they're all just like, what the heck? You just admitted that you're part of this. Why would we trust you? And he was like, I can get you out. And they start making it through, and then the corporate guys come down, and they take over. And they're attempting to trigger traps and move the rooms so that they can't actually escape. And, I'm going to gloss over stuff.
It's not important.
Yeah. Eventually, it's down to just the chess guy, the girl, and a black guy. And the black guy is like a sleeper agent or something. Like, he used to work for this company. They wake him up or activate him, whatever you want to say. And he starts attacking them. Eventually, they push back. They are able to escape. Like, she full-on gets away. She gets back to her daughter. The chess guy gets caught at the end, but he sees that she is away, and so he's happy. And then you see him wake up in a contraption where it's wrapped around his head, and he's tied to the bed, so he can't move. And they're like, you're a liability. This is a problem. We're going to have to take care of this. So you assume that they would just kill him. But no. They screw around with his brain, and it turns out this is Kazan from Cube. So that's why he's so amazing at math. That's why he's so good at chess, because he is a savant. And he was not originally, according to Cube Zero, mentally challenged. They made him that way.
Yeah.
Yep. So... And David did call that very early on. He was like, is that Kazan? That's Kazan. And I was just over here like, gosh dang it, David.
Yeah, because that's what ruins the movie.
No, it's just, when you call the final twist, it's kind of like, aw.
Well...
If it's a really good twist and it's still okay, that's fine. But this wasn't a great twist.
It's not a good twist. It's an abhorrent twist. Okay. So, let me start with a few things.
Interesting. I didn't expect it.
The work environment, so like Cube 1 is implied to sort of be like modern day for the time. It was done like 1990 or something? 99 or something?
Something.
97 maybe. Hypercube is implied to, like, not supposed to be in the future, but, like, cutting edge. Like, well, no, the technology is freaking weird to them, too. They're not like, oh, yeah, time travel, whatever,
okay, yeah, I gotcha.
And then Cube Zero is, of course, supposed to be a prequel to Cube. But the place they work at looks like it's right at home at Mystery Science Theater 3000. Like, it's some weird techno-junk lab that nothing looks normal, but it also, like, I swear to God, if the frickin' robots from Science Theater 3000 walked by, I wouldn't have even batted an eye. Like, of course they work there.
I liked when the corporate people came down, and they're sitting at the keyboards, and they're typing, and then you see them, they just wave their hands over the keyboard, and it flips, and they have, like, kind of almost spikes on their fingers, and then they can just move them around to do what they want. Like, so it wasn't realistic by, the standards and whatnot, but I thought it looked really cool.
It was cool looking, but to be clear, this is this weird, crazy, campy, techno garbage.
Oh, it's completely different from the other two, which is the point. They didn't want to just redo it.
So then why did they... Well, okay. If you don't want to redo a movie, that's fine. But making a prequel to answer all the mysteries... See, this is what I was talking about. If you're gonna have mysteries and you don't have good answers, fine. If you're gonna have mysteries and you write cliche, really bad answers, I hate you. So the only reason I really enjoy Cube Zero at all is because of Jax, their boss, who's just this incredibly out of place, weird comedy psychopath. Like, he's got a bunch of funny lines that are completely out of place in this movie, but are still funny in part because they're out of place, and in part because the actor does a great job with them. The plot is just weird, like, do you believe in God? No. What is that? Like, it's trying to put meaning into a movie that was never supposed to have meaning. That's why it's interesting, is because it doesn't have meaning. The traps are not as interesting, and they're not really the focus either. The acting is
Yeah, the acting was the worst in this
The plot
movie.
is trying to make you care about people when you don't care about them. Like, you don't really care about the people in Cube. You're like, oh, it would be sad if they killed, the mentally handicapped guy. But you're not
liked the main girl in Cube.
A little, but again, it's like not the main point. You're not worried about her relationship with, the other character. Oh, are they going to ship?
I shipped them, and, you know how that went.
Yeah, I do. Terribly. So, yeah, no, it's interesting, but it doesn't... Them trying to give it backstory doesn't work at all. And if this had been halfway... Like, in an odd way, if this had been a better movie, it would have been a worse movie, because then it wouldn't even have the campiness to be fun. So, in a sense, Cube Zero is good because it's just so bad, it's funny. And
okay, yeah, the director from Upstairs that came down was hilarious. Yeah. He was very campy.
That's what I was talking about. Yeah, and it's just like, that's the moment where you go, oh, they're not trying. Like, you realize, like, man, this is really not good. And then he comes down and you're like, oh, okay, cool. At least they're aware. Okay, we're all on the same page. Let's have some fun. Get the popcorn. But, yeah, up until that moment, I'm like, what have they done? Why did they do this? I don't care about their coworker. I don't care about the fact that, ooh, the government's evil. Like, yeah, we got the message. It just, oh my god, it's...
Okay, so the guy who wrote Cube did not write Hypercube or Cube Zero.
I can believe
the guy
that.
who directed Cube did not direct the other two. So it was completely different teams.
Okay.
So I feel like you're being a little unfair to Cube. You can be as mean as you want to Hypercube and Cube Zero. But Cube... They did not intend to do a backstory for it.
No,
so
that's fine. No, that's fine.
That's not their fault that
the people
who did Cube Zero made that choice.
No, I said that, yeah, no, good for them. They get to survive. Like, we won't throw them in a cube with a whole bunch of bad writing in it. So, yeah, no, it is interesting that so many people... I have generally heard that people like Cube Zero more than Hypercube, and I am sort of surprised by that, because, man, like, I like me a good campy movie, and I know a lot of people don't, and it is not a good movie by any other standard, in my opinion. It just happens to be so dumb and out there that you're like, well, okay, not where I expected this to go, but let's go.
I mean, of the three, I've seen Cube the most. It's the one that I always want to go back to.
Because it's the good one.
Yeah, the main reason I watch Cube Zero when I watch it is just because, like, it's supposed to be a prequel to it. But yeah, I like Cube the most.
Yeah.
If I never saw the other two again, I'd be okay with that. If you told me I could never watch Cube again, I'd be sad.
Yeah, and I mean, whatever. I mean, we could talk about its downsides all day. I will straight just say that them making him Kazan was such another unneeded connection that really, like, it was obvious because, like, I'd already picked up on the, ooh, let's answer everything from the first movie. Like, gee, we've got a guy who can glance at things and do chess. And I think one of his comic book hero names gives it away.
Chessman, I think.
Yeah, but somehow that becomes Kazan.
No, I think it was his partner had a name that was really similar.
Yeah.
It wasn't the same, but it was closer.
They're showing it off all throughout the movie because they're trying to be clever and, and yeah, it feels so. It's so dumb. It just happens to be fun dumb. Like Street Fighter. Street Fighter's a great movie. Don't go into it expecting anything good to happen, but it's a great movie. Yeah, I don't think there's much more to say about that. We have a while, right?
About 10-15 minutes.
10-15 minutes. Oh. I was going to say, we can talk about the Saw series and just keep...
Yeah, no, there's not enough time for that.
Daisy-chaining horror. You want to throw Donnie Darko under this bus?
It's been a little while since I've seen Donnie Darko.
Yeah,
I don't know how well I'll be able to talk about it right now.
I don't know, what other horror movies are there that just would fit the theme? I liked The Shining. I liked Saw.
I love The Shining.
Yeah.
Okay, like, I've seen the original Shining with Jack Nicholson.
Yeah.
And that one scared the crap out of me, you guys. The first time I saw it was in Japan, so I was definitely in high school. And there were scenes that just scared me so bad. I had to grab my cat Ruby. I don't know how many of you guys have gone that far into my videos that you go so far back you know her or you've seen her. She was the red cat that I had since kindergarten. And I held her as I watched it because I could not continue watching it alone. I was so scared. Jack Nicholson is freaking terrifying.
Yeah. The best thing about that movie is the casting. I know a lot of little things, like it's a Kubrick film, so of course there's a whole bunch of little things. Like apparently if you follow how they walk through the hotel, the layout literally can't be physically possible. Like they'll make a right turn, walk into a room, and then walk farther down than the hallway was through that next room. Little things like that. But yeah, no, the casting makes that movie because it's not your standard Hollywood actors. Jack Nicholson's already a little bit of a weird-looking guy, and they're not trying to make him look his most attractive or anything. And then the other two, they look like normal people. They're not, just like, oh, well, she's not pretty. She's like an 8 out of 10 on her worst frickin' day Hollywood actress. And then, of course, Kubrick may have, like, psychologically tortured her. Yeah, no, he
did, definitively.
Yeah.
He ruined that woman's life.
Yeah, it's really sad.
It's horrible. Yeah. Oh, my gosh. Like, honestly...
Not okay.
No, I love the movie, but I don't think it's worth what happened to her.
No.
I don't think it was so good that it's worth ruining a woman's life over.
I mean, there's no doubt Kubrick is a controversial figure in a lot of ways, and he deserves it, or deserves to be probably not well revered in many ways because of that, but he did make a good movie.
He really did.
Horror, like I've never seen the original Nightmare on Elm Street. I didn't hate the remake.
Oh my gosh, wait, you haven't seen the original Nightmare on Elm Street?
The first and only Nightmare on Elm Street I've seen beginning to end that's not the remake was, I believe, number 6, where at that point...
So, honey, it gets so campy.
Hold on. So for context, the first real horror movie I saw was The Shining, and I was young, and it scared the hell out of me.
Yeah, that movie is...
So when my friends were talking about these movies with monsters who are, like, killing people all the time, I was like, oh my god, those must be terrifying. Because, The Shining, you barely kill anyone, and it's scary. So clearly these movies must be really scary. So I was in high school when I finally saw Friday the 13th movie, and it's the 6th one. And at that point, he is basically a violent Bugs Bunny. Like, that is the tone of the movie. Like, it's literally Wile E. Coyote gags with blood. So I was like, oh, I believe I may have overestimated these things. I am aware that supposedly the original is actually scary, and since I used to have major issues sleeping when I watched scary movies, I decided, gee, the one about falling to sleep and dying is probably not for me. But I have seen good chunks of it now, and I don't have a problem with it. I should probably watch it.
It's one of my favorite movies of all time. Not even just mentioning, like, horror. The original Nightmare on Elm Street and the third one, Dream Warriors, are amazing.
I actually haven't seen Nightmare on Elm Street, I haven't seen Halloween, and I haven't seen Jason, the originals of any of those. I've only ever caught bits and pieces of any of them, and I've never seen the originals.
I've seen the original Friday the 13th and the original Halloween, and they didn't really do it for me. I don't know, like, the reason Nightmare on Elm Street scares me so much is because you cannot keep yourself from falling asleep. You just... Yes, David, you can try to stay awake for several days, and you can do that, but eventually you will fall asleep.
Look, I might make it to Act 2 or 3. I've gone like 4 or 5 days without sleep before. I might actually have a chance at this one. She'd be dead in the first 20 minutes.
Yeah, I am a morning person, therefore I sleep at regular hours. So I sleep. I don't function very well on not enough sleep.
Like, I'm pretty sure ethically it'd be nicer to just euthanize her right at the start.
Yes, yes, it would. Yes. So, the idea of being able to be killed in your sleep scared the crap out of me. I mean, it still makes me kind of nervous. Like, that would be... I wouldn't be able to avoid that. Versus if you put Jason in front of me, like... He walks. Yeah, okay, he walks fast, but, like, get yourself on a plane. At the very least, he's going to be held up by security for a little while. He most likely won't make it onto the plane you're on. Get on a plane. Get yourself out of there. Get on another plane. Get yourself somewhere else. Chill out for a while, because, you know, maybe he can make it on a plane and make it over. Maybe he has to walk through the water. Maybe he has to get on a boat and make his way over to you. I don't know. But you can just run away and survive. It may not be a fun life, but you can run away and survive. As long as you're not a freaking idiot. But how are you going to get away from Freddy? Like, how are you going to get away from something attacking you in your dreams? You can't. You're going to fall asleep. And that was inherently scary to me.
Yeah, and that was why I avoided it, because I was like, oh, I'm not going to handle that one. Probably as a kid I might not have, because I had trouble sleeping, and I guess the first one's actually scary, but...
Yes, the first one is... So I've watched videos on people talking about, you know, like, oh, the scariest kills, or, you know, like, the worst ones, the ones you don't want. The absolute worst one, the number one on most people's list, is the first death in the very first Nightmare on Elm Street. The next one is the puppeteer's death in the third one, which also, I have some issues with that one, so... If you've seen it, you know what I'm talking about. Once you get away from those ones, it gets campy, it gets silly. And yeah, it's kind of stupid at times. Freddy becomes a lot more vocal, which kind of makes him less scary. But it makes him funny, it makes him fun. And Robert Englund had a blast with that. And I loved it. But the other one you need to see is A New Nightmare. That one is completely different from all of the other ones because it takes the woman, the actress who plays Nancy, it has her play herself. It gets Robert Englund, who plays Freddy Krueger, and it makes him play himself. Gets the director, whose name escapes me, he passed away a few years ago. Oh my gosh. Craven, Wes Craven. He plays himself as the director of the Nightmare on Elm Street movies. And I don't want to spoil it.
Okay.
It's amazing. It was not at all what I was expecting. It was really good.
Wes Anderson, that's the other one.
Yeah, Wes Craven was the horror guy.
I always get them confused.
Yeah, that's very different.
How many people do you know named Wes?
Breakfast Club? No?
Wes? No,
I don't
right?
know. I'm not good at directors.
He was Grand Budapest Hotel, which is amazing, and he's got a very distinctive style that everyone can recognize because it's like blocked colors.
I'm so bad with names.
Who
did?
He did, to my knowledge, nothing you know. I don't know.
Like the guy I'm thinking of did Breakfast Club. John Hughes, that's his name.
Yeah, same.
See,
thing.
I'm so bad at names. Well, no, I'm bad at names. I remember Wes Craven just because I loved the Nightmare movies so much. I bought all the DVDs, so I just saw his name a lot. And like I said, he played himself in A New Nightmare, which was awesome. Yeah, so I definitely recommend those three. I recommend the very first Nightmare on Elm Street. I recommend Nightmare on Elm Street Dream Warriors and New Nightmare. If you want to watch all of them, I say power to you. I absolutely hate Nightmare on Elm Street 2. I thought it was horrible. All of the other ones are just about Freddy trying to go kill a bunch of teenagers. But the second one is he is trying to possess this teenager. Like he wants to train this teenager to take over for him. It's ridiculous. It's stupid. I hated it. 0 out of 10 would not recommend.
Like, subscribe, share, comment.
All that jazz.
Yes.
I'm a dork. I know. It's true. It's okay.
Yes, dear. I haven't seen The Exorcist. I have seen Poltergeist. It was really good. The original Poltergeist.
I actually haven't seen either of those. Like I've seen them in bits and pieces. But I mean, it's like, this goes back to how I was brought up. I grew up with AFN, which is the Armed Forces Network, and there were 5 channels, and I only liked 2 of them. And the only one these movies would have come up on is AFN Movies, and the guides that we had back in the day were not as good as the current ones. You had to be
watching it,
within an hour in order to know what was coming on and what was currently on. So I've seen snippets of these movies, but I've never seen them completely.
Psycho was really good. I saw actually the shot-for-shot colored remake before I saw the original. They're both really good.
I saw Jaws on there. Jaws didn't scare me at all.
Really, Jaws scared
Not
me?
at all.
I thought Jaws was a lot scarier than most of these. The Thing is number one.
That's even less scary to me because it's like, hey, don't go in the water.
Have you seen The Thing?
No, I know. I mean, I know every single thing that happens in that movie, but I've always wanted to see it. I know I'll love it. I already have seen it in reviews and everything, but I have not. I know that I just told you I want to see it.
I know. I'm just trying to contribute to the cover. It's
trying to discredit me.
No, I'm not. I'm trying to explain that. You're right. You need to see it. It's really
it's great.
Good.
Texas Chainsaw Massacre was interesting.
Silence of the Lambs is good.
That was good. He's scary.
I almost feel like it's cheating in that it's not exactly a horror movie. Horror gets stretched left, right, and sideways.
Yeah, there's all different kinds of forms of horror.
But it's more drama.
Babadook is number 15.
This is just some random website. I don't know if it's any good. Carrie, I've never seen. I saw the beginning of Carrie when I was a kid, and it worried me.
Carrie didn't scare me. I didn't dislike it, but it didn't scare me.
Pan's Labyrinth.
Pan's Labyrinth! Oh my god. Okay, well, I don't know about you, but the scene where she eats a grape and the pale man puts the eyeballs in his hand and follows her, that scared the crap out of me. When she's struggling to get her chalk to make the door to get out, I was freaking out.
Yeah. Oh, Invasion of the Body Snatchers. So I've seen the original one. That's terrifying.
I haven't seen any of them.
I haven't seen the remake, and I've heard it's terrifying.
We should watch those.
Yeah. In fact, one of the movies I watched when I was a kid that scared me was The Blob, because I was a kid, and it's The Blob. But, yeah. Classic horror, A+.
Mm-hmm. We're right at the end. Do you have anything else to say?
Classic horror, A+.
And that is the end for Heavenly Beasts, Day 21. I got 6 hours and 30 minutes of footage, so not bad. But the main thing is that I finished page 3. Oh! So, it is getting there. I didn't get a lot done on page 4. Mostly I was just trying to get all over the page so I could lay down, the groundwork. I'm going to iron this at some point, so hopefully the next video will start with it not being all crinkly and folded. I am on book 3 of Mistborn. And my favorite character is still alive. My second favorite character, still alive. So, you know, I have to just stop reading now, right? While I'm ahead, handsome man. I have to just...
Not allowed.
But one of them is gonna die at some point. Like, it's just...
That.
That is my track record. Neither of them are... Well, I guess one of them is, like, quasi-immortal and just got away from potentially being killed permanently. Can I make him my favorite character instead?
It's your choice.
No. Sazed is still my favorite character. He's great. David's been very sleepy. He hasn't been feeling well. It's not that you weren't feeling well, it's that you were just tired. He hasn't been sleeping well. So now he just... Yeah, that was a fake snore. Your real snores are worse. No, I'm kidding.
No, you're not.
Some of them are worse, some of them aren't. So I was partially kidding. What?
You were snoring the other night.
I mean, my bad.
It's weird because, like, you half snore.
How does one half snore?
It's
Is it quiet?
No, well, sometimes, but, like, people, even if they make less noise, in my experience, when they snore, make noise both on the inhale and the exhale.
You don't.
I know, but, like...
So you half snore too?
Most people.
No, I feel like most people that I've heard snoring for real only snore one. Either, I think it's on the inhale that most people snore, in my experience.
I got nothing.
You're a dork, handsome man. I love you. I love you the most. He's wrapped up in a blanket. I would love to show you, but I don't know if... Yeah, so I'll show you, but, I mean, you're not gonna... Yeah, he's just this lump on the couch. Okay, I'm gonna end it there. It is almost 9 o'clock. I'm very tired, so like, subscribe, share, comment, all that jazz, and I'll see you guys in the next video.